Shalom. First off, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahakadash. I want to give double honors to the apostles, elders, and bishops of GMS who have taught us this word and teach us this word today. And I want to give a salutation unto the elect of the nation of Israel. This is the brother Yatazakba with the GMS Nebraska camp. And in this lesson, what I want to get into is the captivity that the nation of Israel is going to bring upon these heathen very soon. You know, the nation of Israel are the Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. And we are the true children of the Most High, whose name is Yahweh, and the Son's name is Yahweh Shai. Now, right now, us Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, we're at the bottom. The reason why we're at the bottom is because we have committed wickedness against our power, against the Most High. You know, when you go into the history of the scriptures, you read about how we made a covenant with the Most High. And that if we kept that covenant, if we kept his ways, then we would be blessed. We would be put on top. But we didn't do that. And within that covenant, it says that if we don't keep the Lord's law, statutes, and commandments, if we don't keep his ways, if we go to follow the heathen's ways and, commit fornication against the Most High Yahweh by way of, worshiping these different gods, we will be cursed. And that's exactly what our nation did. And our punishment, well, we're living it out right now. Right now, we've been scattered across the four corners of this earth. We're in captivity under Esau, Edom, who is the so-called white man. We're at the bottom. We are tasting the fruits of our wickedness, so to speak. But there's going to come a time where we're going to be placed back on top. The scriptures say, let's go to Jeremiah, I believe chapter 31. Let me see. Or maybe chapter 30. Okay, yeah, let's go Jeremiah chapter 30, verse 10. Therefore fear thou not, O my servant Jacob, said the Lord Yahweh, neither be dismayed, O Israel. For lo, I will save thee from afar, and thy seed from the land of their captivity. So the Lord is saying that he's going to save us from all the countries which we have been scattered, primarily here in America. But like I mentioned, we're across the four corners of this earth, and we are not dwelling in our land, which is the land of Israel. It says, and Jacob shall return and shall be in rest and be quiet, and none shall make him afraid. It says that our nation is going to be in rest. It says that none shall make us afraid. And what that's prophesying is that we are going to be placed in our kingdom. The same way that the so-called white man is ruling today, the same way that he has the fatness of the earth and the dew of heaven, everything in his hand, ownership and rulership over this planet, the elites of Esau, we're going to have that same thing. And we're going to be placed in power. We're going to be immortal. You read about that in 1 Corinthians chapter 15. You read about that in 2 Esdras chapter 6, or I believe chapter 7, about the city that is builded where rest is allowed, so we're waiting on that kingdom, and in verse 11 is why I came to this precept in the first place. It says, for I am with thee, said the Lord Yahweh, to save thee. Though I make a full end of all nations whither I have scattered thee, yet will I not make a full end of thee. So even though the Lord has put us in this position and he has punished us over the course of these years and put a lot of us to death and will continue to put a lot of us to death in these coming judgments, he said that he won't make a full end of us. And how would that come to pass? Well, the Lord has set an elect remnant aside that will be saved in these coming times. And later on in this lesson, we're going to get more into what the elect will be saved from. But to put it in short right now, the elect are going to be saved from the coming destruction of this country, America, which is known as Babylon the Great in the scriptures. There's going to be a 1/3 of the nation of Israel. At the head of that 1/3 is the 144,000 prophets, 12,000 out of each tribe, that is going to be saved by, in the second coming of our Lord Yahweh Shai with the angels when they come with the spaceships and beam us up out of this place when it is destroyed. And that's the Lord not making a full end of us. That's the Lord making sure that his nation isn't done away with. But it says, yet will I not make a full end of thee, but I will correct thee in measure, and will not leave thee altogether unpunished. So we're being corrected in measure. We are still the Lord's children, and he's chastising us as you would your child. If your child goes off and is doing things that you say that they ain't supposed to be doing, you chastise them to get them back on the straight and narrow. And that's why we're going through this punishment right now, so that we can learn, the fruits of unrighteousness, so that we can learn how to get our act together, because that's what we're doing, in this captivity. The things that are made pleasing unto the Most High have been made known unto us. Everything was taken from us, and now through the Holy Spirit, the Lord is allowing us to get it back, the elect. Lord will not be of that number, so that he's allowing us to get it back, so that we can show more of an appreciation unto what we lost, so that we can show more of an appreciation unto Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai. Now, you have a lot of people who, when it comes to us prophets and it comes to what we're prophesying about, they complain that we're always talking about negativity. They complain that we're talking about World War III to come, that we're talking about famines to come, and the MOTB and all these different things. But the fact of the matter is, this bad news that we're preaching has to come for our salvation to come. This bad news that we're preaching has to come so that our kingdom can be raised up. Because we're not going to get to the second coming of the Lord without all the bad that comes before it. So that's why we're going to continue to prophesy about these things, and we're looking forward to these things. That's why we get excited when we see news about World War III and about the MOTB and about all the different prophecies that we read. We get excited because that means that we're closer and closer to the end of this devil coming down out of power. And when he comes down out of power, that's when a righteous rulership will be raised up. Because right now, the wicked bears rule. When you go to Job chapter 9, verse 24, it says, the earth is given into the hand of the wicked. He covered the faces of the judges thereof. If not, where and who is he? Now, two main clues that come to mind immediately that gives away who this precept is speaking about is, first off, Malachi chapter 1, verse 4. When you go to that precept, it calls Esau, or Edom, the border of wickedness. As well as, we have to pay attention here in this verse in Job 9 to 24. It says, he covered the faces of the judges thereof. If not, where and who is he? The judges are speaking about the Israelites. And Esau has covered the face of the Israelites. How has he done that? Well, when you go to your search engine and you search up God, you search up Jesus, which was a covering of our Lord in general, because his real name isn't Jesus. The Most High's name isn't God. But when you look up God, when you look up the Son of God, you see Edomite men. When you look up the angels of the Lord, who do you see? You see Edomite looking babies. You see Edomite looking depictions. When you look up different men that we read about in the Bible, Noah, Samson, when you look up Abraham, all these different men, it comes up as Edomites, which is showing how Esau has covered the faces of the judges, because truly Israelites should be coming up, Israelite depictions, and so just going into this precept to show this earth is being ruled by the wicked right now. The scriptures say that wickedness had exceedingly polluted the whole earth. Esau is ruling in a way that is contrary to the Most High's righteousness. He's ruling in a way that is contrary to the way the earth is supposed to be ran. He's allowing wickedness to run rampant. That's why we see all type of violence going on in the earth. That's why we see all type of death going on in the earth, because Esau is allowing LGBTQ rights to run rampant in this planet. Esau is allowing false judgment and lies and deceit to run rampant in this planet. Esau isn't ruling according to how the righteous way to rule has been laid out in the scriptures. And so therefore, wickedness has exceedingly polluted the whole earth. The scriptures call Esau the son of perdition in 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, verse 4. And what that means is the son of destruction. And that's because when you put anything in Esau's hand, then he's going to destroy it. You know, the scriptures say in Habakkuk chapter 2, verse 4, that the soul which is lifted up in him is not upright, because Esau is an evil man. That's who the Lord set Esau up to be, the wicked. And so with this rule that Esau is playing out, he is being destructive to this earth. He is being wicked unto the inhabitants of this earth. And through his rulership, there's going to be a great destruction that comes upon this earth, primarily upon America, which is going to be destroyed completely and never inhabited again, and primarily upon the land of Israel, because Esau is dwelling in that land and has defiled it, and it needs to be destroyed completely to be cleansed, and then it'll be built back up. But those aren't the only places that's going to be destroyed, because when we go to, well, first off, how will these places be destroyed? How will America be destroyed? How will Israel be destroyed? Well, it's going to be destroyed by thermonuclear missiles, because let's go to 2nd Ezra chapter 16, verse 13. It says, actually, we can start at verse 12. It says, the earth quaketh and the foundations thereof. The sea ariseth up with waves from the deep, and the waves of it are troubled, and the fishes thereof also before the Lord and before the glory of his power. So, what's causing this description that we see here, that the seas are going to be shaken, that you're going to have tsunamis coming, you're going to have earthquakes happening in the earth? Well, let's read on, verse 13. For strong is his right hand that bendeth the bow. Whose right hand? The Most High Yahweh. It says, strong is his right hand that bendeth the bow. His arrows that he shooteth are sharp and shall not miss when they begin to be shot into the ends of the world. And those arrows that it's speaking about are those missiles. When you look at an ICBM and you look at a picture of it, of how that missile is shaped, how it looks, and then you look at an arrow, it looks the same. When you look at the end of the arrow, how it has the 4 feathers, well, those 4 sharp looking points come out the back of that missile. And it says that these arrows are going to be shot upon the ends of the whole world, which is showing that these aren't real arrows that it's speaking about. This is a quote unquote arrow, something symbolic for an arrow that has the capability to reach to the other side of the earth. And what does an ICBM stand for? An intercontinental ballistic missile, which means that it can go from one continent to another. These missiles that these different countries in the world wield have the capability to reach from, say, Russia to America. So it says, behold, the plagues are sent and shall not return again until they come upon the earth. The fire is kindled and shall not be put out till it consume the foundation of the earth. And so when an ICBM hits its target, what happens? Fire comes from it. A great explosion, a great destruction comes from it. And it says that it's going to consume the foundation of the earth, because that fire that comes from those missiles burn at a very immense heat, a very immense temperature. So let's read verse 16. It says, like as an arrow which is shot of a mighty archer returneth not backward, even so the plagues that shall be shot upon the earth shall not return again. So once those missiles are shot, there is no directive for those missiles to turn around and go back to its silo that it came out of. Nah, once that missile is shot, it's going straight to its destination. Now, it can possibly be shot out of the air, but we have to keep in mind that these countries that hold missile technology, such as America, such as Russia, such as China, these are hundreds of missiles that these places will. And these are just ICBMs that I'm speaking about. There are thousands of ballistic missiles, lesser power missiles that these places have. So you're not going to shoot every one of them out of the air. They're going to go to their target, and they're going to do what the Lord has set for them to do. So, Shalaki, I lost my train of thought, but okay, Shalaki about that. So as I was saying, actually, I want to go to the next precept, which is Isaiah chapter 24, verse 20. And it says, the earth shall reel to and fro like a drunkard, and shall be removed like a cottage. And the transgression thereof shall be heavy upon it, and it shall fall and not rise again. And why is the earth going to reel to and fro like a drunkard? Why is the earth going to be in the description that we read in 2nd Ezra 16, where the waters are going to be troubled and the earth is going to quake as a whole? That's going to happen because of all the explosions and the impact that the earth is going to be suffering from these missiles. That even if where you're at in the world doesn't get hit by a missile, you're still going to feel a shaking because of all the places that will get hit by it. It's going to be a great destruction. So the thing is, you know, when we read in the scriptures and we speak about our kingdom that is about to be set up, we have to keep in mind that the heathen are going to have to be employed to build up our kingdom. Because it's not like America, you know, it's not like America is going to be destroyed. It's not like World War III is going to come about and Esau is going to be brought down. You know, the Israelites are going to come into power. You know, because hey, once America is destroyed, that is the turning point where it reads in 2nd Ezra 6 and 9, where it says Esau is the end of the world and Jacob is the beginning of it that followeth. But we can't be simple. When we read in 2 Peter chapter 3, verse 13, and it says, nevertheless, we according to his promise look for new heavens and a new earth wherein dwelleth righteousness. That new heaven and that new earth is the same earth. It's the same planet. It's not like this place, not like the planet Earth is just going to be destroyed and we're going to go to a new planet to set up our kingdom. No, heaven is going to be right here on earth. Our kingdom is going to be right here on earth. But it's going to have to be built up. The state of the world is going to be in a very bad state when Esau is first brought down out of power. And there's going to be a time to where our kingdom has to be built up. But do you think we, as the Israelites, once we come into power, once we receive our new bodies after our salvation, we're going to be the ones building it back up? No, that's where the heathen come in. That's why we read in Psalms chapter 149, verse 5, it says, let the saints be joyful in glory. Let them sing aloud upon their beds. And the saints are speaking about the Israelites. You know, because when you go to Psalms 148 and verse 14, it says, he also exalted the horn of his people, the praise of all his saints, even of the children of Israel, a people near unto him. Praise ye the Lord Yahweh. So when the Israelites are brought up, you know, it says, let the saints be joyful in glory. Let them sing aloud upon their beds. Let the high praises of the Most High be in their mouth and a two-edged sword in their hand, to execute vengeance upon the heathen and punishments upon the people. So now we have to ask the question, why are the heathen going into captivity? Why are they about to be brought down? Why are we going to rule over them? Well, that's because they ruled over us. That's because they touched the apple of the Lord's eye. All these heathen have had a time, all the heathen upon the earth, whether it's the Edomites, whether it's the Elamites, these East Indians, or the Ishmaelites, these Arabians, the Moabites, the Chinese, the Ammonites, the Japanese, all these nations, they've had a time where they ruled over the nation of Israel, or they have had a part to play in our current captivity today, and they have ate the fruits of our captivity. And so we are going to come up and rule over them. I mean, that's the way it should be. We are the superior nation in this earth. The Lord says so himself. We are people near unto him. We are a special people, a peculiar people. And he is going to deal with us as such, just like he has dealt with us as before and today. So it says that we're going to execute vengeance upon the heathen, especially first and foremost Esau, Edom, because Esau has furthered the affliction. Esau has executed great wickedness upon our nation. We see all the atrocities that he's done against us in chattel slavery, you know, from 1500s, 1600s, 1700s, all the way to today. You know, the scriptures say in Ezekiel chapter 35, verse 5, it says, and this is speaking to Esau, it says, because thou hast had a perpetual hatred and hast shed the blood of the children of Israel by the force of the sword in the time of their calamity and the time that their iniquity had an end. Therefore, as I live, said the Lord Yahweh, I will prepare thee unto blood, and blood shall pursue thee. Since thou hast not hated blood, even blood shall pursue thee. So there's going to be a righteous recompense that comes upon Esau for all the bloodshed that he's brought upon us, for all the wickedness that he's done to us. The Lord is going to pay a recompense on them, and we are going to be able to exercise judgment upon them in righteousness. You know, and we're going to rule over all these heathen and put them in a hardcore bondage. But Esau is going to get it the worst. The scriptures speak about in Revelation chapter 20 that for the first 1,000 years of our kingdom, we're going to be whipping all the heathen into shape. We're going to be ruling over all of them harsh. But once those 1,000 years are up, the rest of the heathen, they're going to have been conditioned to serve us properly. They're going to have been conditioned to keep our ways and follow after our power, as well as the Edomites. But after those 1,000 years are up, the Edomites are just going to be completely done away with. They're going to be destroyed. We read about that in the Obadiah, the book of Obadiah. You know, so while the other heathen are going to get a hardcore bondage, they won't get it as bad as Esau is going to get it, because Esau has dealt with us the worst throughout the course of history. You know, and that's why in verse 7, it said, as a matter of fact, no, let's go to Romans chapter 9, verse 13. Where it says, as it is written, Jacob have I loved, but Esau have I hated. There's nowhere in the scriptures where there's any semblance of mercy that the Most High has on the Edomites. He hates the Edomites. And we should hate the Edomites. And once we come into these new bodies, and once we come into our second covenant and we're on top, the Lord is going to implant within us the proper hatred that we're supposed to have for the Edomites, you know. But like I was saying, you know, these nations are going to be employed with building up our kingdom, because just like it says that we're going to be in a new heaven and new earth, that word new just means replenished, refurbished, you know, brought to a new state. Just like you have the new moon in the sky. Once the moon goes through its full cycle, it goes back to the new moon. That doesn't mean that there's a new moon in the sky, but it's the new moon in the cycle. It's gone through its course, and it's started over from new. That's the state that the earth is going to be in, but it has to be built up. When we go to Ezekiel chapter 39 and let's go to verse 11. It says, and it shall come to pass in that day that I will give unto Gog a place there of graves in Israel, the valley of the passengers on the east of the sea. And it shall stop the noses of the passengers, and there shall they bury Gog and all his multitude, and they shall call it the valley of Hamon-Gog. Now, Gog is speaking about Russia, and Russia is a major player to come in this World War III that we prophesied about. But there's going to be many of these Russians that are put to death. All these men in the military, there's going to be a large amount of bodies. There's going to be a horde of dead. You know, and I don't mean like zombies. I mean like dead bodies. You know, and so that's why it's saying that all these bodies are going to stop the noses of the passengers. If you were to walk by all these carcasses, you know, you would smell those dead bodies and stop your nose. And so, and that's why in verse 12, and this is after World War III. This is after Esau has come down out of power. This is, you know, let's read on. It says, in 7 months shall the house of Israel be burying them, that they may cleanse the land. Now, when it says the house of Israel shall be burying them, we're going to read on to see what that means. It doesn't mean that us ourselves as Israelites are going to be burying these nations. It says, yea, all the people of the land shall bury them, and it shall be to them a renown the day that I shall be glorified, said the Lord Yahweh. And they shall sever out men of continual employment, passing through the land to bury with the passengers those that remain upon the face of the earth, to cleanse it. After the end of 7 months shall they search. So it's saying that us Israelites are going to sever out men of continual employment. What does that sound like? A slave. And we've already read in the scriptures, what's Salakia? Because now I remember I was in Psalm chapter 147, and or Psalms 149, and I don't think I finished this precept. In 149 let's start back at verse 7. It says, to execute vengeance upon the heathen and punishments upon the people, to bind their kings with chains and their nobles with fetters of iron. So these elites of all these different nations, they're going to be put in captivity. They're going to be put in chains. They're going to be put in fetters of iron, the same way that the Israelites were put in chains and fetters of iron. The same way that we had, metal around our ankles and around our necks to serve hardcore slavery. They're going to be put in that position. And we read a specific job that they are going to have to do, which is what? Cleaning up all those dead bodies that are going to be upon the earth after World War III. And this is just one portion of the description on how the earth is going to have to be cleansed and built up to the state of, the kingdom in its perfection. Because like I spoke about before, America is going to be completely destroyed and never be inhabited again. It's going to be as a desert, like we read about in Isaiah chapter 13. But the nation of Israel is going to be destroyed as well and cleansed by those missiles. But the nation of Israel, or the land of Israel, is going to be built up for us to dwell in. And the heathen are going to be behind that building up. Because when we read Isaiah chapter 60, verse, let me see, is it 61? Okay, let me see. I gotta find. Okay, Isaiah chapter 60 and verse 10, it says, "And the sons of strangers shall build up thy walls, and their kings shall minister unto thee. For in my wrath I smote thee, but in my favor have I had mercy on thee." And so it's showing that, there's going to have to be a building done, and the heathen are going to carry that out. They're going to build up our walls. They're going to clean up all the rubble and, all the ash and all the destruction. And they are going to be the ones that are setting us up, as well as all the places upon this earth that has been destroyed. They're going to be the ones that are cleaning all that up, building up the walls, making sure everything is the way it's supposed to be. And they're going to be doing that under our supervision, under our rule. And once we're set up, we read here in verse 11, it says, "Therefore thy gates shall be open continually." I'll let this car pass. So as I was saying, Isaiah chapter 60, verse 11, it says, "Therefore thy gates shall be open continually. They shall not be shut day nor night, that men may bring unto thee the forces of the Gentiles, and that their kings may be brought." And this is, further along within our rulership. This is, once we have, things have been set up, the nations are going to have their places upon the earth that they dwell. They're going to, dwell in their lands upon the earth, and they're going to have, they're going to have their communities. They're going to have things that they have set up for themselves. But when we read, it says the forces of the Gentiles are going to be brought unto us. What are the forces of the Gentiles? Where that's the best of the best that they have to offer. Let's get that word forces real fast, which is Strong's H2428, which is Chayal. It says strength, might, efficiency, wealth, army. Strength, ability, efficiency, wealth. And what that's saying is that, let's say the heathen, if you have the Elamites, for example, the modern day East Indians, and they grow spices, or they excel in a certain crop, they're going to bring us the best of their spices. They're going to bring us the best of the best of that crop that they grow. That's the forces of the Gentiles. Now, we're not just going to strong arm them and take everything that they got like Esau would do, not allowing them to have a lick of what they worked for or nothing, but they will bring us the best. And all the heathen are going to be happy to do that. They're going to be happy to bring us gifts and to please us Israelites. Because the scriptures say in Proverbs chapter 29, verse 2, "When the righteous are in authority, the people rejoice. But when the wicked bear rule, the people mourn." And the people of this earth are mourning today. Globally, we've never seen depression rates like this. Globally, we've never seen, people at a low like this. The earth is in a terrible case. War is all over this earth. All type of stuff is going on. under Esau's rule. So we see how bad of a ruler he is. And that's why all these nations upon the earth are wanting to take down America. They're wanting to take down Esau out of power. But when we come into power, well, let's go back to 2 Peter 3 and 13. What does it say? It says, nevertheless, we, according to his promise, look for new heavens and a new earth, wherein dwelleth righteousness. And under righteousness, the earth is going to be ruled in its proper fashion. The earth is going to be ruled in a way that the subjects of the rule, they're going to be happy with the rulers, because they're going to be in a better case underneath our rule. And that's even more reason to show why Esau is going to get just terrible treatment in the kingdom. Like I spoke about, the other heathen of these other nations, eventually they're going to be able to dwell upon the earth and have a little bit more freedom, but of course they're going to be keeping our ways though. Like we read about in Isaiah chapter 2, these nations ain't going to be able to just serve their gods how they was before. They ain't going to be able to just do whatever they want. They're going to keep our laws. They're going to serve our power, but they're going to be able to govern amongst themselves. They're going to be able to be in their own lands and things like that. But Esau ain't going to get that type of freedom. Nah, he is belt to ass the whole time for Esau. Because we see how he's treating the earth today. The scriptures say in the book of Revelation, I forget which chapter, but let me see if I can find it. Let me see if I can find it here in Revelation chapter 11 verse 18. It said, and the nations were angry, and thy wrath is come in the time of the dead, that they should be judged, and that thou shouldest give reward unto thy servants the prophets, and to the saints, and them that fear thy name, small and great, and shouldest destroy them which destroy the earth. Esau is behind destroying the earth. These heathen have a part to play with in it as well, but Esau is the number one ruler in the earth today. He's the one behind, the ecosystems being destroyed. He's the one behind, animals going extinct, which I speak as a man, but I don't believe that animals truly go extinct. I believe that Esau kills off a great amount of them, but I believe that the remnants of those animals are in hiding. I don't think the Lord would just allow his creations to just be done away with like that. But, I could be wrong. I don't quote me. I just speak as a man. But Esau is behind, these great numbers of animals being dying off, and the people, being in the state of sickness that they're in, the bread being defiled, people's minds being defiled. That's all Esau. So again, I lost my track of thought, but the thing is, the heathen, they're going to be happy to serve us, and that's going to be. Now, one more point I wanted to make before closing this video out, this is a righteous captivity that's about to come upon these heathen. This is a righteous new world order that's about to be set up. We see within Esau trying to set up his new world order, all this death and pain and wickedness has to come about for it to be instated. His new world order in it of itself is wicked, where he wants to put the MOTB and all the inhabitants of this earth to be his subjects, to have ownership over them himself, contrary to Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai. And when the Israelites come into power, let's read Isaiah chapter 2 verse 4. It says, and he shall judge among the nations, and shall rebuke many people. And they shall beat their swords into plowshares, and their spears into pruning hooks. Nation shall not lift up sword against nation, neither shall they learn war anymore. There's going to be perfect peace when the Israelites come into power. There will be no more war, no more nations trying to fight against another nation. No, the Israelites are going to be in power. Yahweh Shai is going to take the title of being King of Kings upon the earth, and it's going to be what it is. When we're in our new bodies, these other nations won't even think to try to fight against us. So that shows, this is why we need to come into power. This is why we welcome, all the plagues, the calamities that's about to come upon this earth. That's why we continue to preach about it. That's why we're hastening that day. We want Esau to accomplish his enterprise, because once he does accomplish his enterprise, once he gets so far within his plan, that's when the Lord is going to return. And we're waiting for that. We welcome it. Because once Yahweh Shai returns, we're going to be placed on top, and that's when this earth is going to be ruled in righteousness. Let's grab one more precept, and then we'll close it out. Let me see. It's in the Apocrypha. I believe it's Sirach chapter 10. Yep. Sirach chapter 10, verse 3. An unwise king destroyeth his people, but through the prudence of them which are in authority, the city shall be inhabited. The power of the earth is in the hand of the Lord, and in due time he will set over it one that is profitable. So hey, with that, I'm going to close out this lesson. Lord willing, this lesson was edifying. Once again, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahar Chak Wadash. I want to give double honors to the apostles, elders, and bishops of GMS.